everybody. A very warm welcome to you all. So, the post lunch sessions are generally the more tougher ones to moderate. So, I'll try and do a fair job. Uh, Welcome our panelists. Okay, so carbon capturing, as we all understand, is a crucial tool to mitigate climate change by reducing CO2 emissions that contribute heavily to global warming. So, with this in the background, we'll try and understand from our experts what are some of the ways wherein we can best balance growth with environmental stewardship. Beginning with the ladies first, Deepa and Shelly, can you help me understand how do you really see carbon capturing as a tool for industrial decarbonization?
Thank you. And thank you again for staying awake and coming in soon after lunch. Really appreciate it. Yes, he's our diversity candidate for the day, right? This you would have had a panel full of women. So I'm Deepa Nagraj. I'm with Emphasis. Emphasis is a technology services company, and we do nothing with carbon storage, right? Thankfully, technology services companies are not meant to do that. I manage three different verticals here. The first one is I manage an innovation ecosystem called Sparkle. While as a technology services company, we have our own R&D lab. My role is to look for startups, academicians, anything that any solution I can take to market. The second piece of what I do is communications, public relations, so on and so forth. The third one is ESG, right? Therefore, talking about the environmental stewardship and anything that we are doing. Part of ESG, the social component, includes CSR and a bunch of different initiatives that we do around carbon sequestration, rewilding, so on and so forth. In my opinion, we are really the last generation that can actually do anything to be able to reduce the earth from getting warmer than what it is, right? There are a lot of policies that people talk about. There is a lot of intent, but the way it gets translated from policy to intent to execution is what we're here to see. From a technology services standpoint, our carbon emission is probably as much as airlines. And I'm saying this simply because when you think about carbon footprint, you're probably seeing it in your air tickets, you're seeing it everywhere, and you're saying, oh, the most polluting industry is airlines. But have you thought about every server that is there, every computer, every phone that is there? Everything has carbon emission, right? It has a carbon footprint. And if you collectively put this all together, is probably generating more carbon than the airline industry. With the advent of AI and ChatGPT, there is more cooling that is required for AI or quantum than anything else. These are not things that we are consciously thinking about. You're trying to retrofit it. So, as an environmental steward, what we're trying to do is be able to manage both your business interests, your stakeholder interest, your investor interest with what we're trying to provide as solutions. So happy to talk about the entire environmental stewardship works that we're doing around carbon during the panel. Thank you.
Thanks, Deepa. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. I am Shelly Mittal. I used to work for Shell for 16 years, and now I'm starting my entrepreneurial journey in climate deep tech. I'm glad that, Deepa, you touched upon the diversity element because I was also noticing the same. And happy to say that I'm not feeling like an alien. So I'm an engineer by background, and I've worked in the oil and gas industries. So you can imagine, being a woman, it's not that easy. I worked in Iraq as well for 4 years. So I used to be the only woman. So I'm really glad. Sorry, Vinay. But I think diversity is really, really crucial, even when we talk about our war against climate change. So coming back to the climate change element, and the question is about the carbon capture technologies and why is it an important tool for the decarbonization. It's really important, especially for the hard to abate sectors. When we talk about sectors like cement, steel, fertilizers, chemicals, carbon capture technology is an important part of the puzzle. So if you see, India is fastest growing economy in the world. 80% of India is yet to be built. So the demand for these sectors is gonna grow multiple times. So we're talking about power is gonna grow 8 times, cement is gonna grow 3 times, steel almost 8 times as well by 2070. So if we have to really decouple emissions from the growth of Indian economy, carbon capture would really play a crucial role in the decarbonization of the industries. So with that, let me hand over to the mic.
Yeah, good afternoon. Thank you. Soumya and other panelists. Yeah, I'm here. I think I was observing the earlier panel. It was also the same composition, 1+3. So I think that puts some comfort level for us. Okay. Thank you. Actually, as far as the carbon capture is concerned, I represent hospitality. I represent ITC hotels. We are a conglomerate with about 13 businesses. Hotel is one. Whether it is a paper, whether it is IT, whether it is FMCG, whether it is, anything, hotels, etc., etc. So, as far as carbon capture is concerned, in our system, in the sense in hospitality, it is very small, minute areas. But we did little pilots in this area too. As of other thing is concerned, we believe in triple bottom line, that because the other line is carbon capture and also the economic sense. So that and how that will benefit in the bottom line. That is also very important. As a company ITC, as an ITC hotel, we believe in the triple bottom line plus one extra P. That means people, planet, profit, and prosperity. So when all these things comes together, then only an organization or a company or a government or a nation prospers. That is the belief on which we are working. One of the element when the planet and people comes, then definitely is the carbon emission reduction, how I can give this Mother Earth to the next generations without polluting, without creating any harm. That is the principles. One element of this is the carbon capture. Because we did as an hotel, today about 12 of our hotel is LEED zero carbon. That means scope 1 and scope 2, 100% is zero. Including the hotels in Bangalore, Chennai, Maharashtra, which is Mumbai, all these hotels. Can you believe a hotel like this using all these power? That means the other gentleman was mentioning, there will be an emission on the back. That means whatever you do, there will be it is creating a carbon or creating carbon dioxide outside. How I can prevent? This thought, when it came long back, it was thinking that it is impossible. That was the concept. Because you have to run a business. End of the day, it has to be profitable. Then only you will be in business. Plus, you should not create harm to the planet. Plus, you should not create issue to the community or your all other stakeholders. So, but today I'll take this conversation later, how we did it as a pilot, as a one, and then multiply it to the other hotels. Same thing, a carbon capture. We did it in one as a pilot, still is under trial, and definitely it is also the one which is hard to abate scenario, where it is impossible how that particular technology can be used. Not only the residues is putting into a deep sea, but how I can use it for our other utilities. That is how the entire ecosystem works. Thank you.
Sure. Understood. Thank you for setting the base for this conversation. Deepa, my next question is actually for you. Can you help me understand the kind of policy support that we have on the carbon capturing initiatives in India?
There are a whole bunch of carbon capture initiatives, right? There are policies are there, and I'm not the expert at it, right? But if any of you've probably witnessed any specific outcome of it, I'd be happy to hear. But what I don't see happening is while all these policies have come, how are they is there a carrot or stick model to this right now, right? Most of us in our organizations are probably not following the policies that are laid out because it's not really part of the law of the land. We are doing a bunch of activities either for because our clients are asking us to do, or it is market facing, or it is for every RFI, RFP somebody is asking us to do, right? EcoVadis, for example, anybody who has a European client will mandate EcoVadis as one of the ranking methodologies that are needed. Dow Jones Sustainability Index, if you have to be part of the ESG index, you have to feature in that. Dow Jones, the Asia index is very, very powerful for our share market. Likewise, you'll have MSCI that does a web crawl, so on and so forth, right? And all of these are capturing everything that you're doing. And you're doing this because you have vested interest in it. Unless these policies that the government is doing is actually implemented a bit more strongly, I don't know how it is going to come by, right? For all emphasis offices in India are in SEZs that are anyway in renewable energy source. So we use no brown energy. The pandemic has taught us to work differently. We don't have to go to work. Work comes to us. People are working from home. We're trying to figure out what is the entire carbon that is emitted by laptops when people are working at home, what sort of energy that they're using, how can we reduce that, those kind of things that we're doing. There's one part of it where you're trying to look at carbon and carbon capturing. The other key thing is carbon sequestration. If there is already carbon that has been emitted, how do you ensure that you're reducing the impact of it? How can you sequestrate this? We hear about floods, right? Mumbai, there were floods in the Chennai region. These are not just because of urban development. It's also because you've taken off natural resources. Mangroves, which were the rock bed, so to speak, of the brackish water that prevented flooding and were the largest source of carbon sequestration, was actually completely removed. I don't know how many of you know the story. In the 70s, the government decided that we should reclaim more land and provide employment to people. And what they did was they imported these seeds from South America, went on a chopper, dropped it everywhere in the coastal belt, 60 kilometers from Chennai onwards, where cactus kind of plants started growing and the water was completely dry, which means if there is a flood, the water is going to come straight into your city. And why would you want to do that, right? Now, all our efforts are towards carbon sequestration, where we're rewilding about 11 hectares as a pilot to see how much carbon we'll be able to sequestrate and what are the positive impacts that it has on environment, right? So, like organizations like us, if you are not carbon capturing, I would highly recommend that you look at alternate ways of reducing carbon, like the sequestration piece. And all of this is natural. It doesn't have to be done in a compressed lab to create a diamond, right? It's not about lab grown diamonds. It's actually natural ways of sequestration.
Okay, understood. Shelly and Vinayak, can you, as an extension to this, what are some of the ways that the government or even the private sectors can use to incentivize the increased adoption of carbon capturing strategies, especially in developing areas which have perhaps the limited resources with them?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting topic to discuss. In the last panel, we heard about how the solar and the industry has actually evolved over time, and the cost curve has actually gone down. Similarly, for carbon capture technologies, we are really at the early stage right now, and indeed, effective policy intervention is needed. It can happen in two forms. It can happen in the term of capital, and second, in the term of regulation. So, government funding, grants, all of these aspects to finance the carbon capture technologies is really important to ensure that it can become commercially attractive. The second one being the regulatory part, that's where the carbon tax comes into play. So if the cost of emitting the carbon is higher than the cost of capturing the carbon, that will actually encourage the heavy industries to adopt the carbon technologies. So right now, the cost of capturing carbon ranges from $30 to $90 per ton. So the carbon tax would have to be more than that, somewhere in the range of $100 per ton of CO2 emitted. If government can actually make an effective carbon tax system in India, that can really help to deploy the carbon technologies at scale. So let me actually share the global perspective. If we look at global north, which is actually really leading the way in carbon capture technologies, US has already launched 45Q tax credit, which is a significant financial incentive to deploy the CCS projects. European Union is encouraging cross-border collaboration to ensure that they can work together towards the carbon capture. UK has already committed, I think, roughly $20 billion, billion I'm talking about, $20 billion in the next 20 years to deploy the carbon capture technologies. So India can indeed play a crucial role, and policy would have to come into play similar to what we did with solar, what we did with EV. But right now it is still work in progress. We haven't got any specific policy for carbon capture technologies yet, but it is needed for sure.
Yeah, I fully agree with Shelly, because as of now, the classic example is that when we started the renewable energy, for example, we started using about 10 to 15 years back. Government has incentivized. There was a yearly banking. That means I can generate, store it, I can use it in a year long. But slowly that incentive it's like a tax holidays. Even the installation of the plant, when we were installing it, there was actually the entire depreciation benefit. So exactly the same thing like this, if the government can come up with a policy for the carbon capture, because carbon capture definitely is very, very essential in a heavy industries, whether it is a cement or iron and ore, etc., etc. So then the people will have incentivized it, so they will go more and more. The other thing is that this is very, very another the technology barrier. In India, it is as of now, when we did it long back, a small pilot, it took about 2 to 3 years to import those equipments. So then also there are a lot of questions, because even in the government, some of the things, these technologies, they must not have used it, and there are many questions. So we have to answer those. What are you going to do with the residues? How you are going to dispose it? Because the carbon capture, you capture the carbon. What are you going to do? I cannot dispose it just like that. Are you going to put the deep sea or any other? I mean, in our case, maybe in those mines, deep unutilized mines, etc. In a bigger property, I mean, a bigger scale. Smaller scales, then we have come up with some other novel idea. Why don't you use it? We use it for the bicarbonates. This is nothing but this, convert into bicarbonate, use it as a soap or a detergent, and use it for our own utilities. So that is how that got cleared. So there are many barriers. So definitely it is a one area which needs to be looked into by the policymakers and incentivize both from the technology and the equipment and the depreciation benefit, like exactly what she said, with other renewable, whether it is a wind, whether it is a solar, whether it is, I mean, small idle, etc. So then it becomes a big success.
If I can just add to this, right? When you're talking about policy, it doesn't essentially have to be for carbon capturing, right? The entire life cycle of manufacturing, and right now, right, with the China Plus One, manufacture in India, make in India policy, how are you going to be able to curb the carbon footprint right from getting the raw materials from wherever you're getting to being able to use that to manufacture and then ship that back? Right now, technology, equipment manufacturing is at an all-time high. Your chips are still coming from somewhere else, right? All your raw materials are coming from somewhere else. If you look at it, between Dell, HP, Apple, GE Healthcare, everything is being manufactured here, but the raw materials are all coming from somewhere else. What is the carbon footprint of each of those? How can you reduce that? And then if you have to send it back somewhere else for testing, and you're then getting it certified somewhere else, each of that is as well carbon footprint. So it's not just about capturing after you've gone ahead and emitted as much carbon, but reducing it from the beginning. The policies will have to be from the start to the end. Likewise, every single European brand of perfume is bottled by a bottle that is manufactured in India, right? So you're actually manufacturing it here and shipping it all the way. And you and I try carrying a bottle in our suitcases when we're traveling, there are 80% chance it's going to break. Think about it traveling all the way from here to Europe, right? And then you're thinking about bottling it there and then calling it safe. Now EU is thinking about using recycled plastic and instead of actually getting it all the way from India. And the minute you have EU carbon taxes, even those manufacturing things will go up. The minute you start having make in India, all of that, I think the policies will have to be ahead of time to think about the life cycle and just not capturing after the emission.
Deepa and Shelly, what are some of the potential risks or environmental impacts when we talk about carbon capturing and storing? Can you give us a sense of that?
Sure. I think if we look at the application of carbon capture to be underground or in storage, it is actually a reverse of what happens in oil and gas. So when I used to work, right, we used to take the carbon out of the ground and then we are using right now in our diesel or petrol cars. When we are saying that we're gonna use the carbon capture and store it back into the underground fields or depleted oil and gas fields, we are actually reversing the flow. So then imagine if that carbon is getting captured underground, there's a huge ecological risk as well, because if there's a leakage of carbon dioxide that happens underground, there could be a potential risk that can be caused to the biodiversity and also to the communities if it is not contained. So having a proper review of the geological conditions, so whether the storage sites are actually suitable for storing carbon dioxide, is really important. Another important environmental impact is the water requirement. Similar to the data centers for AI, the carbon capture technology also requires a lot of water in order to regenerate the solvents which are needed to capture carbon. So that water that is needed is also an environmental impact, because in India we don't have water as a scarce thing, right? So we can't actually afford to use a lot of water. We have to ensure that how can we optimize the water for the carbon capture technologies. So these are some of the major risks that are involved, and that's where the technology advancements are needed. And that's where the private players will play a key role in ensuring that we can innovate, we can do the pilot projects, so that the viability of the technologies can be proven before we actually scale them up.
Thank you. One of the easiest solutions that people keep talking about, if there's just so much carbon, why can't you make diamonds out of it? And then, you have this entire fad of lab grown diamonds versus natural diamonds. And it's the exact same thing, right? Lab grown diamonds, while it is kind of already being disrupted, right? What used to sell at $20 is right now selling at $2. But even if you're saying that you'll capture carbon and compress it to make that much more valuable into diamonds, the amount of energy that is used to do all of this is immense, right? Similar to lithium. Everybody talks about getting lithium from the Argentinian triangle, but that as well is a lot of water consumption. And nobody's thinking about the water, again, the carbon footprint of shipping it from wherever to wherever. Right? So My request to all of you is don't just follow the fad. Somebody's been saying EV, so everybody goes to EV. If you're using brown energy to recharge your EV, it makes no sense. If you are going to make you're going to capture carbon with diamonds that using more energy, it makes no sense, right? Whatever it is, policy or not, please evaluate it before you're able to kind of leverage that in any way.
Thank you, ladies. Vinayak, can you also help us understand the public's perception and acceptance when we talk about carbon capturing and storing?
Yeah, see, there's a public perception or the acceptance as far as the carbon capture is concerned, because still it is in a very nascent or a starting stage. The awareness is much, much less. So people, what they do is like us or some other industries, they use when there are a lot of hurdles to adopt those technologies, then they will see what we can do other ways around without compromising this. Like for example, hotel industry uses electricity which is comes from grid. When there is a power outage, we run the generators. Also, when there is also in a laundry, kitchen, and many of those appliances, they run by steam. So steam means boiler. Boiler means scope one, that is your fuel. So when there is a, if there is a, just imagine there is incentivized technologies available, etc. This scope one emission can be easily abated or can be reduced by using the carbon capture. Unfortunately, when that is not there, then people will think, oh, okay, anyhow, scope 2 emission, which I am dependent on our own renewable sources like solar, wind, whether it is third party, our own captive generation, etc. Convert all these equipments, which is boiler or the some of those gas equipments, etc., to electrical appliances and reduce the emissions. That is what we have adopted. Because of this particular barrier, because of this particular things, how we did was this. So the public perception as of now is one is awareness, there's the issue of awareness, and the issue of how economically it is viable.
Okay, so in the interest of time, I will have to come down to my last question, which I want each of you to give 1 point each for this. How can we best integrate carbon capture with India's climate strategy? What is your point of view?
I think we need to follow a 3-step approach: restrict, reduce, and then remove. So, restrict your demand, reduce the emissions, and then look at the carbon removal technologies.
Yeah, definitely the policymakers has to think on this, where it is impossible to eliminate that emissions, there only we can use this particular one, because if there is easily can be done by the other two, then definitely it is better to go with that.
I think every organization in their own way have to take on either a carbon neutrality or a net neutrality mission within the organization. And if every organization is able to do that, we've taken up carbon neutrality by 2030. There are some of our peers who are already there. That's the only way you will succeed in being able to be carbon neutral by 2070, right? And everything that you do will then not have to be a retrofit, but this is almost a horizontal, it's a litmus test. Anything that you're doing, if you are a logistics company, your last mile connectivity probably is has the most amount of carbon. How are you going to optimize that? If you're an airline company, how are you going to optimize that? So it's not to be an afterthought, but be an integral to the business strategy, so every business becomes sustainable and therefore the country in itself.
Very wonderfully put. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us on a weekday and taking out time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes, please go ahead. Sir, we're getting you a mic.
Hello, can you hear me now? Okay, so but I would like to understand what is the carbon trading system? How does the carbon credits are earned? they are sold. I'm told it works like an exchange, like a stock exchange. Any idea you can give it, please. Thank you.
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Sorry?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Yeah, question is carbon trading system.
Yeah.
That carbon credits, earning, selling, exchanging, earning money out of it, or paying money for it. How does it work?
Yeah, that's. I think that's definitely a conversation after the panel. But let me keep it brief. It is quite similar to the fish market, but then with a lot more complexity, I would say, because we have to really verify that whatever we are buying is actually indeed being carried out on the ground. So when we say carbon credits, Indian government is planning to launch a carbon trading system by 2026. They're going to put a ceiling for each industry that how much carbon they can emit. If they are not able to fulfill, they have to pay a fine, or they can buy credits from the market to fulfill that kind of ceiling.
Say, you yourself told, I think Vinayak
Yeah.
told, that this is still at a stage of awareness.
Oh, yes.
Even the carbon capture system, that how much we can capture, how much we can save, what is the index that we are working, and world has gone forward to exchange of it and selling and buying of it.
I will
Is
answer
it
your
a
question.
capitalist economy like China and America? They are working against each other in this way.
I will answer your question. See, carbon trading is nothing but you reduce your carbon. For example, I'm using business as usual. This building uses say 100 units. You use some innovative method and you started using 50 units. There is a delta of 50 units you reduced. I'm just giving us one example. That 50 units is equivalent to some type of carbon, means 1 ton carbon, half ton, whatever. If you prove this by the third party, there will be an audit or a review, then you can keep that. That is validity is for 10 years. That is how the trading works. That 10 year you can sell. Today in the international market, this is called as a CDM mechanism, means clean development mechanism. International market, it sells about say $1, $2. You can sell it, but validity is for, you can hold it for 10 years. That is one mechanism. Second one is a carbon credit, what she just mentioned, is the one where you cannot do it. You are in an industry where you cannot reduce your intensity, carbon intensity. You can buy the carbon through an exchange. How they will do it? For example, I have a solar plant. I give it to the grid at 3 rupees per unit. But actually, 3 rupees is very less. I am not making my money. So the government, what government will do is 1 ton of this. Other one you can do as a carbon credit. 1 ton, 2 ton, whatever the ton of that solar plant, that can be put it in exchange. So that in a year, if I generate 1 crore units of electricity, government pays something, which is the base price. Rest of the things will be as a stray in a stock market. I can sell it to the third party. That is how the second thing exchange works. It's called as IEX, Indian Exchange, Indian Energy Exchange or something.
Is this
like that.
system working? What I'm saying?
Yeah,
What you're telling?
IEX is working. Yes.
It's
yes,
working?
Yes. It is
Who are the
working.
companies who are participating? She's from oil and gas companies, so am I.
Yeah.
I know this industry is such where you cannot bring the carbon emission as zero or
Correct,
even reduce
correct,
very
correct.
much less than that.
Correct.
There are limits to which you can reduce. So idea was to know exactly that how we can really collect the carbon credits and then sell it off or buy it off to neutralize our system. Like that.
Yeah, it's IEX.
I think we need some practical examples
Yeah.
who are doing it. Otherwise,
You can IEX.
That's
Yeah,
what you
this
tell.
is, see, the thing is that, for example, a particular industry uses, say, 100 units. 50 units they reduce by using their own solar or etc. Another 50 units, how they can do it? They can buy the carbon credits. The carbon credit can be purchased by these things. This is how it works. And other one is a CDM mechanism. That is a different thing. It means clean development mechanism, where outside you can, in the international market, you can sell it. Correct me if I'm
Industry
wrong.
like yours, you know, getting to neutrality or net zero is going to be so difficult. That's why you have carbon offsets, right? That you'll only have to buy to be able to offset even the 50 that you're doing, and you offset that. But I again, for you to be able to take a studied decision to say what is greenwashing versus otherwise is a lot. If you go to a typical consultant, and if you have a net zero score, a net zero that you want to achieve by 2030, the easiest thing that they'll tell you is, take offsets from the Amazon, right? But that is probably, in my mind, not the best way to do it unless you're able to reduce it yourself. So it comes back to the same thing.